Looking at our world from a theological perspective. This is the Theology Central Podcast, making theology central.
Someone make it stop. Please, someone make it stop. It just won't stop. I don't understand. I don't understand anymore. I am confused. I am perplexed. I am confounded. I don't understand. I don't understand anything. And, well, that's probably bad since, well, I'm doing a series trying to explain it. Oh, wait, I'll explain it all in just a minute. Just be patient. Good afternoon, everyone. It is Friday, July the 12th, 2024. It is currently 3:35 p.m. Central Time, and I am coming to you live from the Theology Central studio located right here in Abilene, Texas. And because it's Friday, you know what that means, right? It's Friday. So right here in the studio, my focus has to really kind of change from podcasting and the series we're working on and all of that. And it has to kind of shift, not from, podcasting, but it has to shift to what I'm going to be preaching and teaching on Sunday. And if you've been paying any attention, you know that what we've been working on Sunday is Psalm 83. We have been working on, and there's a part of me like, how did I get myself into this mess? Like, how do I get out of this? Just someone make it stop. On one hand, I just kind of want to be done. On the other hand, I'm like, man, if I can make it all the way to the end, maybe I will have accomplished something. I don't know. I think I've given some very interesting points about Psalm 83, but I'm struggling. But I've been up and down the steps like a lot today because I have all kinds of things I need to do downstairs. So I've been helping downstairs, moving this, doing this, putting this together, doing all kinds of things like that. I've got all kinds of things to do. So in between doing things, I keep running back up the steps and I keep coming around right here to the microphone. And I'm like, okay, well, what do I do today? Do I really want to broadcast today? Well, we got to kind of continue to do that work on that. Well, that kind of turned into a series on revival. All right, I need to do a little work on that. And then we started working on, lean not to your own understanding, leaning wrong. And we looked at Abraham and how he leaned towards Egypt, or should I say Abram, how he leaned towards Egypt. Well, maybe today we'll talk about Lot leaning towards Sodom and how he leaned towards Sodom. Okay, so I started working on it. And then, 1 page of notes turned into 2 pages of notes, and then it turned into 3 pages, and then turned into 4 pages. And I think I have now 5 pages of just all kinds of different, thinking about it and trying to, okay, well, what about this? Well, I know this is the way most people present it, but maybe our preaching of this is completely wrong. Maybe we should approach it from this perspective. So I was kind of create different hypotheses and then testing them. And I'm like, okay, that's what I'm going to do. I am going to do something on Lot in Genesis chapter 13. That's what I'm going to do because I need to. And then I'm like, but wait. It's Friday. You gotta start moving your attention to Psalm 83 because you're going to be spending 2 hours standing there behind a pulpit working on Psalm 83. So I'm like, what do I do? So I'm like, you know what? Just take a break. Went back downstairs, came back upstairs, and I'm like, okay, let me just look at my feed on the Sermons 2.0 app. I told everyone to find 20 broadcasters and everyone to monitor their feed. Remember, I made a big deal out of that. So I'm like, well, since I'm telling everyone to do that, let me do that. So I opened it up and I looked at my feed, the feed tab, right? I look at my feed tab. I'm going to go all the way back to it because I opened up 50 things. And I pulled down and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. This cannot be real. There's just no way. And I just sat there and I looked at it and I just started shaking my head and I'm like, this cannot be real. This cannot be in my feed. This cannot be real. Who is messing with me? Like someone is messing with me. Someone is trying to drive me to becoming an alcoholic. They're trying to drive me to drink. Okay, not literally, but it feels like someone is messing with me. It feels like it. There, I'm about to knock my iPad completely off the table, but it feels like it because this is what I found. Remember way back in a galaxy far away, how one day I had to go do a lot of running around Abilene, Texas in my car. And so I had to take people places and pick people up and doing all these things. So I grabbed my iPad and downloaded a bunch of random sermons to participate in the Sermons 2.0 app Sermon Challenge. I remember one of those random sermons was The Coming Middle East War. And then when I started playing it, I realized the full title was Psalm 83, The Coming Middle East War. And I was like, oh, wait, what is this? And that started this, it seems like never-ending journey in dealing with Psalm 83. And remember, we reviewed a bunch of things within that series, and it just got confusing. And like at times, it really wasn't even about Psalm 83. Some of the things being said about Psalm 83, not only were they just not accurate, just maddening stuff. So I'm like, you got to be, well, I obviously, you know where I'm going with this. I opened up my Sermons 2.0 app and went to my feed tab, and there it is, Psalm 83, part 31. From the same ministry that started all of this. Remember, they changed the title from The Coming Middle East War to just Psalm 83, like part 12, 13, 14, 15. I think they changed the title like part 10 or part 11. And now they're at part 31, ladies and gentlemen. 31. I am imploring you. I am begging you to go listen to all 31 parts. You say, why? It's frustrated you. It's confused you. It's confounded you. You've been somewhat irritated by it. At times I have. I'm also been appreciative because they made me relook at Psalm 83 and decide, is it a communal lament or is it imprecatory? And I kind of apologize. I think I'm kind of back that even though they say it's an imprecatory, I think it's a communal lament, and I think I can prove that. So, but we went back and forth on that. So I've been learning things, but the reason I want you to listen to it is, one, because it's the very thing that sparked all of this, but two, I just want you to hear for yourself, not with my commentary, not with my analysis. I want you to hear all 31 parts for yourself. I want you to process what's being said. I want you to understand, how does this relate to Psalm 83? I want you to hear how the text is being handled. You can draw your own conclusion. Forget what I have said. You draw your own conclusion. And the reason look, maybe I shouldn't be this way, but there are times I listen to preaching or teaching. And I'm just going to be honest with you. There are times it impacts me different ways. Sometimes I will listen to preaching and teaching. I'm like, man, they are such a good communicator. I could never communicate as good as they can. Wow. The way they handle the text. Wow. I never could be that good. But I'm going to be honest. There's other times I'm like, wait a minute. That's the sermon? That's what they're doing? And they have a huge church and a radio ministry, and they have all kinds of people giving donations, and they just brought in, $100,000. And I'll be like, what in the world? If that's what people want, I just need to retire. I just need to get, I can't, because I refuse to be that. There's sometimes I'm just like, not only can I not do that, I refuse to do that. And if that's what people want, there's no point in me even trying anymore. Sometimes I get very discouraged, right? Sometimes I may feel like, man, I can never be that good, but I can work harder, right? I could do better. I could improve. And then there's other times I'm like, well, if that's what people want, just forget it. And a lot of what people want, to be honest with, I refuse to provide. I'm just not going to preach that way, teach that way. I'm just not. But if that's what people want, then there's no point. So sometimes I get frustrated with this series on Psalm 83. There's a part of me just going, what? I don't even know what to do with it. So I was like, okay, all right. 31 parts. I'm a little bit behind. I think I'm back at part 26. So I'm like, you know what? I don't know what to do right now. I need to do this thing on Lot and lean not to your own understanding, but I need to be working on Psalm 83. So I looked up some passages and I looked up some passages that are going to be relevant to Psalm 83 in the book of Judges. And I'm like, okay, how do you say his name? Jerubbaal? Or, okay, I think I've got that. Wait, how do I say that name? Okay, trying to make sure, okay, how much am I going to read from Judges? Just trying to figure out some of the logistics and how I'm going to put it together. Okay, wait, I could have a little section here on imprecatory. Okay, maybe I can do something with that. All right. So I'm just trying to figure out how I'm going to approach it. And then I'm like, I'm not getting anything done. All right, I know what I'll do. Since I'm behind in this series, let me go back to part 26 and let me start listening. And I started listening. And some things there that I'm like, okay, well, that's a good point. That series, the pastor behind that series is very much believed that God promised land to Israel and Israel will get that land. Okay, we're in agreement there. I believe God gave a promise to land for Israel, and that is physical land, and it's not to be spiritualized. So we're in absolute agreement there. All right, good. Okay, that's good. But then he mentions something, and I think this may be the second or third time. I cannot, if anyone listens to all 31 parts, you can tell me how many times they mention it. They mention the Arab Spring again. And I'm like, why is this series that's being put together in 2024 continuing to mention the Arab Spring? That was like 2010, 2011. I'm not understanding. And what has that got to do with Psalm 83? Like I'm just completely and what has that got to do with Israel? Like I'm completely baffled by the whole thing. So what I want to do is just play a little section where the Arab Spring is going to be mentioned. And then what I want to do is just, I'm going to, look, I've stated it before. I think we have driven this point into the ground. Some people may say I'm beating a dead horse, and I have no desire to do that. But the more preaching I continue to listen to on Psalm 83, the more I feel like I have to continue to repeat these issues. Psalm 83, ladies and gentlemen, even if you say it's an imprecatory psalm, whether you say it's imprecatory or whether you say it's a lament, Psalm 83 is Asaph, the worship leader at the time of David, maybe into the beginning of the reign of Solomon. He is expressing whether an imprecatory prayer or a lament based off the situation that is happening right then. This is not prophetic. It's a historical description of what they were facing and the emotions and the desires that were arising from the situation they were facing at that time. This is not talking about some incoming Middle East war. This is talking about what was going on at the time. No one has come even anywhere close to trying to make a argument otherwise. The best we got is someone tried to connect it to 2 Chronicles 20, and then they made ridiculous comment that basically Asaph was alive at the time, which is just not true. So then we're like, okay, you know what? No, this is describing what was happening at that very moment. It's a present tense problem. It's not prophetic. All right? So I have to repeat that a million times. That's what's going on. But somehow, in this discussion about Psalm 83, the Arab Spring is going to be mentioned. So I just want to drive that point home. That's what it's about. All right? Now, I'm trying my best on Sundays in my 2 hours of preaching each Sunday, trying to demonstrate a way to make it somewhat applicable to us. And I think I've done so using the text. Now, the next part of it's going to fall completely apart. I think it's going to fall completely apart, but we will get there when we get there. All right. So we will see. But in the meantime, let's go listen to this and just keep in your mind, Psalm 83 is not describing anything future. It's describing what was going on at that time. All right. I almost feel exhausted, but let's see what happens. Are you ready? Are you ready to hear what happens? Now, I just kind of stopped this. Like it's right in the middle. I think what he just finished talking about was, he was talking about how Muslims don't, Islam doesn't recognize Israel, that in some of their schools, they remove Israel from the map and they hate Israel. And so he was saying kind of negative things. And he said, well, some people may be saying to me, you better not say that or they'll kill you. And he was like, well, so what? You'll just send me to heaven. All right. And I'll be ruling and reigning with Christ. So he kind of goes in that direction. Okay, great. Wonderful. All right. It's kind of weird. Like sometimes Christians will say, well, if they kill me, so what? I'll just go to heaven. And then the next minute they're saying, oh, wait. We may be all Christians in this building, but we're going to make sure we have a security team with guns because if someone comes in and try to kill us, we're going to take them down. Wait, they would just be sending you to heaven. I thought that would be wonderful, right? Okay. All right. So Christians, so weird. Like one time it's like, God, nobody can hurt me because God is protecting me, but I have locked doors and guns. Wait a minute. I don't need any protection because the worst you can do is send me to heaven. But wait a minute, I'm going to have a gun and a locked door. It's sometimes this weird contradiction, but let's see where he's going to go. I think it's only going to be like maybe quickly. I think it's going to get weird because, well, at least to me, because I think we're going to end up talking about Russia. What does that got to do with Psalm 83? And then the Arab Spring? Let's see. Maybe I misheard it. We're getting ready to find out.
But now, many of their leaders in various lands have stated these things I've just said. That's not an accusation. That is not just a thought or an opinion. That's what their own leaders have said. Dr. Henry Morris, who's now with the Lord, made this statement on this passage in Psalms 83. He said the prophecy primarily applies to the end times, since their defeat will be forever, as it states in verse 17. It will end with these Muslim nations acknowledging Jehovah as supreme over the earth.
Once again, it's not prophetic. It's describing what's going on at that time. And even when even that reading from Henry Morris. Okay, let me go. So starting in 13, Asaph cries out to God. You could call this somewhat of an imprecatory section. Say, God, bring destruction upon these people. Bring judgment upon these people. You could argue that it's somewhat poetic and maybe hyperbolic because it doesn't sound like he wants them completely destroyed because he wants all these things to happen to them. Look at verse 16. Fill their faces with shame that they may seek your name, O Lord. Do this so that they may seek you. Obviously, they have to still be in existence to seek, right? Okay, so that kind of shows their desire, which again, to me, is not so much imprecatory. That sounds more like a lament. Hey, but in a lament, you're crying out, hey, we want you to do something, but we really want you to do it so that they will seek God. Let them be confounded and dismayed forever. Yes, let them be put to shame and perish, that they may know that you, whose name alone is the Lord, are the Most High. This is not prophesying. This is saying, Lord, do this so that this may happen. I don't know why everyone keeps saying that this is a prophecy about some coming Middle East war. I don't understand. We have taken this text apart. We've gone forward, backwards. We've turned it upside down. We've turned it to the left, to the right. We've flipped it over. We've done everything. And every single time when we listen to any message about this, it's always asserted as a dogmatic fact. This is a coming Middle East war. What are you talking? No. So it's a coming war with Muslim nations who are coming against Israel prophetically somewhere in the future. No. Does anybody have Asaph's phone number? Because if we could call him, I know we can't, but if we could call him, Asaph would be like, what are you talking about? That was my lament. That was my imprecatory prayer because we were facing a horrible situation at the time of either in the life of David or maybe the beginning of the reign of Solomon, somewhere around that time. All right. So it's Muslim nations. Now all of a sudden Russia is going to come involved. And this is okay. Just watch what happens.
Hey, think about that. The Bible says that's going to happen. Now, I don't care who you are, what kind of a Christian you say you are, or whoever you say you are. How intelligent you think you are? If God says that's what's going to happen, and he does, that is going to happen. Now, that doesn't have to happen before the rapture, but it can take place, and very well it can take place. There's nothing saying that it won't happen before the rapture. We already see the Russian coalition prophesied 2,600 years ago. Those nations.
Now I'm completely confused. It's Muslim nations, now Russian nation. What? Now Russia's involved? When did Russia become a Muslim nation? I don't get this. So now he's going to go to prophecy about Russia. But Psalm 83 is not about Russia. There's no way to make it about Russia. So is he saying there's going to be a Russian invasion or war, and there's going to be a war with Muslim nations? There's two future wars. Is that the direction he's going?
Have never been together like they seem to be coming together today. And this Ukraine mess and all of that, that will change when the tribulation has the Russian coalition coming down. You'll find that in the book of Ezekiel chapter 38. We see these nations that surround Israel getting a consensus with their Arab Spring against Israel.
We see these Arab nations with a consensus against Israel in their Arab Spring? Okay, I'm going to back that up just a little bit. Okay, I want you to hear that exactly. Okay, here we go. Let's back this up.
14 Southeast 36th Avenue.
Okay, I don't know what just happened. All right, let's see if we can find this here. All right, I don't know. My timer thing here is doing weird things. We'll find the spot. It may take me a minute. Just be patient.
Coming to this earth, okay? 4 wars coming to this earth that the Bible identifies for.
Okay, that's not it. Let's see if we can get back a little further here. See if we can get back a little further. All right, let's see if this is it.
Go. Those nations have never been together like they seem to be coming together today. And this Ukraine mess and all of that, that will change when the tribulation has the Russian coalition coming down. You'll find that in the book of Ezekiel chapter 38. We see these nations that surround Israel getting a consensus with their Arab Spring against Israel to actually attack them. And God told us in Psalms 83, 3,000 years ago, that this day was coming, and he named the people.
The Arabs, he's connecting this to the Arab Spring. Well, first of all, that's not today. All right, let's do, everybody ready to take a little class on the Arab Spring? Everybody ready? Okay. Now, I'm not going to say, by no means am I an expert on the Arab Spring, not even close. But I do know this. At the time of the Arab Spring, I was broadcasting. In some ways, it almost felt like 24 hours a day around the clock at that time, because I'd kind of fallen into this thing that, I kind of do a news program from a Christian perspective. It never really was my intention to kind of turn into what it turned into, but it kind of spiraled out of control. And next thing you know, I'm basically not sleeping, and I'm working full-time job in the military and a full-time pastor, and I'm like a full-time news broadcaster. It was very detrimental to me spiritually, because I wasn't even focusing really on spiritual things. But at that time, man, I was broadcasting and talking about the Arab Spring frequently, constantly. All right? So, if you don't know, the Arab Spring was a series of pro-democracy protests and uprisings that began in 2010 and 2011 across the Middle East and North Africa. Please note 2010, 2011. Now he's saying they're coming together in their Arab Spring today. No, it's not today. It was 2010, 2011. And they were coming together to attack Israel. Is that what the Arab Spring was about? It was a pro-democracy protest. Now, these movements challenged entrenched authoritarian regimes in the region. And here are some of the key points. The origins and trigger. The Arab Spring started when protests in Tunisia and Egypt led to the downfall of their respective regimes. The spark came from the self-immolation of a Tunisian street vendor. He burned himself alive. And the reason he did this, he was protesting mistreatment by local officials. So he was getting upset about how he'd been treated. He burns, or about mistreatment by local officials. He burns himself alive. Self-immolation. All right. A sacrifice, usually by fire, if you want it like a technical definition. All right. That kind of sparks all of this. Now, inspired by Tunisia and Egypt, similar movements emerged in other Arab countries. People expressed political and economic grievance, demanding greater freedoms, human rights, and democratic reforms. Please note, they were demanding greater freedom, human rights, and democratic reforms. What has that got to do with Israel? What? The way he's describing it, I don't even understand. Okay. Now, while some countries saw successful regime changes like Tunisia, others faced violent crackdowns by security forces. Not all movements achieved their goal of increased democracy and cultural freedom. For instance, Libya experienced civil war and Syria's uprising turned into a prolonged conflict. In summary, the Arab Spring was a complex and transformative period with varying outcomes, but it highlighted the desire for change and democratic progress in the region. Please note, in that entire description, looked up from many sources, all compiled together, guess what? Guess what wasn't mentioned there? Israel. That does not sound like Psalm 83. They will come together to try to fight against authoritarian regimes and to try to find democratic reform and find personal freedom and human rights. That is not what Psalm 83 has to say. It has nothing to do with the Arab Spring. So then I was like, okay, let me do a little research here, because I was like, well, during the Arab Spring, how was Israel impacted? So again, gathering from numerous sources, Israel faced significant challenges and concerns during the Arab Spring. There was concern. Initially, Israeli leaders, worried that the uprisings might empower Islamist groups, leading to instability and potential threats to Israel's security. Hey, if some of these leaders fall, then there may just come a power vacuum in some of these nations and countries, and it could lead to a little bit of chaos. And what will happen while you're fighting for, say, democratic reform, you're trying to fight for human rights. Once you topple the government, now you have a power vacuum, and then these groups, many of them will be Islamic groups that will very much try to take over, which will then only bring back much more of a, Islamic Sharia law type government, which then ultimately could then play negatively for Israel. And I discussed all of this at that time, all the potential concerns. Now, the impact was more like this. The Arab Spring did lead to systemic changes in the Middle East, and some of them were negative. We cannot deny that. For example, the Muslim Brotherhood gained power in Egypt, and jihadist groups emerged in Syria. Israel's relationship with some Arab nations worsened. So there was some negative things that happened, but there wasn't like this confederacy of Arab nations because of their Arab Spring. None of this is Psalm 83. But here's what's interesting. In hindsight, if you look back now, Israel emerged really as a winner. The region's dynamics shifted, and Israel's security interests were actually better preserved while it was all said and done. Now, we ultimately know what happened on October the 7th, but ultimately from the Arab Spring, there was actually things improved for a period of time. So when we talk about the Arab Spring, it's better to understand it's a complex story, but the headlines today tell a different tale than a decade ago. In other words, when we kind of look back, we can kind of look at it now and get a better understanding of it. At the time, yeah, there was grave concern. Wait a minute. Okay, I know we're saying these people want democracy, and maybe they do, but they may end up with unintended consequences. You get rid of that leader, who's going to take his place? Is it going to be the Muslim Brotherhood? Is it going to be other jihadist groups? Okay, I discussed all of that. It felt like every day for months, over and over and over. And I would be like, okay, now we have protests in this country. All right, everyone pull out their maps. Mark this place. Oh, we have another protest here. Now, here's what you need to know. As if they topple that governmental leader, here are the groups that will try to take power within that country. And then I would name the groups. It would be the Muslim Brotherhood or this group or this jihadist group. And we would try to discuss it. Now, if that happens, you see where Israel could be in trouble. There was lots of discussions about that, but it did not play out. Anyway, definitely did not play out the way he just described. And the main thing I want to say, none of the thing that happened in the Arab Spring sounds like this. All right? Okay, none of this sounds like this. Are you ready? Psalm 83. Do not keep silent, O God. Do not hold your peace, and do not be still, O God. For behold, your enemies make a tumult, and those who hate you have lifted up their heads. They have taken crafty counsel against you, against your people, and consulted together against your sheltered ones. They have said, come, let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be remembered no more. For they have consulted together with one consent. They form a confederacy against you. That is not the Arab Spring. That has nothing to do with the Arab Spring. I don't understand. All right, I'm going to back it up, and then we can finish this up. Now, I know some of you are like, well, you're just making a big deal out of it. I'm not. It's a big deal because I don't, look, people can be wrong. Look, you can have, forget opinions. You can have your own alternative facts about what happened in the Arab Spring. You can write your own story about it, okay? Right? Fine. But here's the thing. Leave Psalm 83 out of it. That is my issue, okay? All right, I'm going to back this up a little further. Let's see. Hopefully this isn't messed up. Here we go.
Here. Now, for you that have been listening, maybe following the last few days on this, as I said,
okay, it's weird. Every time I back it up, it does this weird stuff. All right, let's see if we can get right back to where we were. Hopefully this is it.
And this Ukraine mess and all of that, that will change when the tribulation has the Russian coalition coming down. You'll find that in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 38. We see these nations that surround Israel getting a consensus with their Arab Spring against Israel to actually attack them. And God told us in Psalms 83, 3,000 years ago, that this day was coming, and He named the people, He named the land, and it's beginning to come to pass.
Psalm 83 was not predicting the Arab Spring in 2010 and 2011. And what happened in 2010 and 11 and the Arab Spring has nothing to do with whatever you think is starting to happen in 2024. Now you're saying the Arab Spring, now we're in 2024, and now you're saying Psalm 83 is prophesying what is happening now? No, Psalm 83 was describing what was happening then at the time of Asaph.
Now, there are 4 wars coming to this earth, okay? 4 wars coming to this earth that the Bible identifies for us. There may be many more wars, but the Bible speaks of 4 of these wars. And
someone, please, write these down. All right? Because look, this is worth, see, even though I may be strongly frustrated and strongly disagreeing with, especially with the Arab Spring thing, that just drove me nuts when I heard it. I haven't heard this part yet because I stopped it with the Arab Spring stuff, knowing I had to talk about it. All right, but here's what I want you to do. He's going to name, he says there's 4 wars. There may be more, but there's 4 specific wars that are coming. 4. We want to write down and see if we can, and we may want to make this like this may end up turning into, another series where we look at these 4 possible wars and see if they are, if he's saying Psalm 83 is one of those wars, we can go ahead and throw that one out because Psalm 83 is describing what happened then. It is not prophetic. There's been no textual proof even hinted at to show me that this is a prophetic psalm and not either an imprecatory prayer about what was happening at the time or a communal lament about what was happening at the time. But let's get these 4 wars. Now, I'm fascinated on this part, right? See, this is why we listen to different sermons. We may disagree with a good portion of it, but we still may be then challenged to consider something that we've never considered before. I think I know one of those wars, maybe. I don't. Let's see. I think maybe I know where he's going, but let's see where he's going to go.
And I'm going to go from 4th to 1st when I do this. So be listening next time when we start right here. Now, for you that have been listening, maybe following the last few days on this, as I said, I did this series back in 2011 with much, much, much research, checking things from around the world.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think we just figured out what happened. The reason he has mentioned the Arab Spring so many times, he's using his notes from 2011. Now, I have stated this over and over and over. For any pastor, for any preacher, your old notes are useless in the present. You should burn your notes, past notes, used in the present. Bring your past mistakes into the present. The only way to get rid of those past mistakes and correct those past mistakes is to never use your notes from the past, but always start over. Always start brand new. The reason he's mentioning the Arab Spring that way is because he was doing this in 2011. Well, I'm sorry, it's 2024. You know the Arab Spring did not lead to anything that you even hinted at or mentioned. None of that happened.
And made sure that there were no contradictions with the Word of God. But what I want you to see is, as I said, 3,000 years ago, we see these things being prophesied. We see things coming to pass that God prophesied long ago. My friend, are you ready to meet the Lord? Can you give me a Bible reason why you know that if you died today that heaven would be your home?
This is your radio pastor, Pastor Andy.
All right, well, you know what we need to do, class. We have a new assignment for our Psalm 83. Ladies and gentlemen, you need to go find this series on Psalm 83, and you need to start in part 27. You need to listen to 27, 28, 29, 30, and 31. I told you to go back to the beginning and listen to all of it. Right now, just forget that. Start in 27, and we need to find out the 4 wars. He's going to start with number 4, go to 3, go to 2, and go to 1. We need to, and any scripture reference he gives, we need to outline what are the 4 wars, what are the scripture references, and then we're going to have to then take each one basically as a hypothesis. He's hypothesizing that this is the 4th war, this is the 3rd, this is the 2nd, this is the 1st, and then we will test those hypotheses and see if we can either confirm or deny. Because if there's 4 coming wars, we want to know not only what those wars are, what to look out for those wars, and when may they occur. All right? I think that's good. Now, so here, let me give you the information. So what you need to do is you need to look for Central Baptist Church. Central Baptist Church. The speaker is Dr. Andy Bloom, and you need to find his series on Psalm 83. You need to look for part 20. You need to download, if you can either download it, if you need to listen to it offline, or you can just stream it, part 27, 28, 29, 30, and 31. Now, if he covers those 4 before you get to 31, great. But considering the way he's done this, I may go all the way to part 31. We need to identify what the 4 wars are. We need to identify everything he says about them. Just kind of consider that what he's saying is his hypotheses. Okay, who is the war with? When is the war supposed to occur? What should we be looking for? What nations are involved? And what scriptures clearly outline it? That's kind of what we need. Who, where, like the who, what, where, when, how kind of concept, and the scripture. The who, what, where, when, how, and the scripture. That's kind of what we need to do. Then what we will do is we may then break this off, because I don't think Psalm 83 has anything to do with any of that, right? I'm just gonna forget that he's even now. If he says Psalm 83 is one of the coming wars, we're gonna just ignore that. We're going to just go ahead and say that we've done enough work that we can already disregard that hypothesis. But I will listen to any argument that he puts forth, because I got no problem. I've already come on here once and kind of basically said I was wrong, maybe that it is an imprecatory psalm. Now that I'm kind of going back and forth, but I got no problem coming back going, no, I was wrong. It is prophetic and it is a future war. So we'll see how he explains it. But now we got a challenge in front of us. I just wanted to talk about the Arab Spring because I don't want other Christians having a very confused perspective. But I now understand why his perspective was a little flawed, because he's basing it off what was going on in 2011. He's using his old notes instead of taking 5 seconds to do a little research going, well, how did that all turn out? How did the Arab Spring actually turn out? Well, Not the way you were describing it. And I guarantee you this, it obviously wasn't Psalm 83. So either the Arab Spring was Psalm 83, or the Arab Spring had nothing to do with Psalm 83, because now we're in 2024. Now he's saying, well, now we're seeing it come together. Well, I thought you were saying we were seeing it coming together in 2011. Now it's coming together in 2024. Well, then then disconnect it from the Arab Spring. But he says there's 4 coming wars. There could be more, but there's at least 4. The who, what, where, when, how. That's your job. That's our job. We're never going to... Well, but we're going to separate these 4 wars out of Psalm 83. So anything he connects to Psalm 83, we're just going to disregard, unless something happens and I change my mind. All right? Now, if you're convinced that Psalm 83 is prophetic, and well, then by all means, you can argue your hypotheses. I'm willing to listen to it, but at this point, I'm just getting confused. So now we can kind of understand why he's mentioned the Arab Spring multiple times, because it was 2011. There was all this stuff happening in the Middle East, and he decided that Psalm 83 prophesied it. Didn't quite work out. So now we're in 2024, and now Psalm 83 is prophesying what's going on today. Because the 2011 thing didn't work out for you? I mean, and now because of what happened in Gaza and what's going on in Gaza, okay, the Palestinians, all of the, Hamas and all of the different things now. See, every time something happens over there, people want to start saying, well, a fulfillment of a prophecy. Well, and then nothing happens until we just wait till the next time. That's what it feels like. But who knows? I don't know where it's going to ultimately go, but I am interested. So please look it up. If you cannot find it, email me, newsif@yahoo.com. newsif@yahoo.com. So your weekend is going to be filled with Psalm 83. Well, no, actually, it's going to be filled with 4 coming wars. All right, somewhere in your house, you should have a big whiteboard, and you should have your whole family there, saying, all right, ladies, here's the 4 wars, who, what, where, when, how, and the scripture reference. All right? I know your kids are going to be like, do what? No, we're not doing that. Okay, all right. But probably everybody in your family would say, stop listening to that stupid podcast. Okay, but all right, there you go. There's your assignment. What I have to do is not allow this to distract me from what I need to do, which is actually work on Psalm 83. See, now I'm going to want to go to church on Sunday and go, hey, we're going to look at 4 wars that have nothing to do with Psalm 83 while we're in the middle of Psalm 83. I can't do that, but I'm going to be very tempted to do that. All right. We'll see. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for listening. You can email me, newsif@yahoo.com. That's news, the letter IF, newsif, India Frank, newsif@yahoo.com. Everyone have a great day. God bless.